Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Keeping It Social. My name is Christian Salas. I'm Associate Professor of Social Work here at El Paso Community College. Our show aims to have some difficult conversations and sometimes bring awareness about the resources and things available in our community for all El Pasoans. And today, we do just that. With us today is Ms. Isabel Olague, Senior Advocate for Disability Rights Texas, DRTX for short. Welcome, Isabel. How are you?
Thank you. Doing fine. How about you?
Doing well, thank you. Thank you for taking the invitation and talk a little bit about DRTX, what it is, how people can access it, and some of the services that are provided by DRTX. So, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you mentioned earlier when we were talking that you've been with DRTX 19 years, so getting close to that 20-year reunion, right? It's kind of like high school. So tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get involved with DRTX? Just a little bit about it.
Thank you. Yes. So I started with a project that DRTX get funds for, and it was to bring the community together, or to have that network between the resources outside the communities, rural communities, and to inform parents about their rights when having, children receiving or suspecting of a disability or receiving special education services in the public schools. So the way I started is doing outreach in the rural communities. And that was, around El Paso. It was in Horizon, Socorro, all those areas around. And we were bringing people together to inform them and educate them about the laws that protect, students with disabilities in the public schools.
Excellent. So it sounds, you were talking about how you focus a lot on education. It sounds that's where you got started, you found that niche, right? And so that's where you stayed. With that said, what is DRTX, right? What is Disability Rights Texas? Not necessarily something anyone would know about, but definitely something that we all should know about. So what is DRTX? What is it? I know we can throw out some acronyms, the PDA for Texas, all these other things. That's not going to mean anything to our viewers that haven't heard about this.
Yes, DRTX stands for Disability Rights Texas, as you know, and it is the federally designated protection and advocacy center. It's an agency that protects, Texans here in Texas, and it is to protect, to advocate, and advance the rights of people with disabilities by providing them legal advice and advocacy support in various areas, including, special education, healthcare, housing, employment, and voting rights. I mean, you name it. We have several. And I can go in deep about the different departments that Disability Rights Texas has. And this is for, as I said, for individuals with disabilities, so it could be, different ages.
Okay. I know sometimes when we talk about disabilities, people tend to associate that with physical disabilities, right? People that might have low vision or might be blind, people who are deaf or hard of hearing. But when you all serve this population, what is the definition of disability? What is the group of people that you serve? Mm-hmm.
Well, it could be something that is, an impairment that is physical, or that it could be emotional, or it could be physically. They're like different disabilities that can impact someone to receive the appropriate services. I'm thinking like, in schools, sometimes, children with disabilities, it could be, something emotional that people don't see, like autism or an emotional disability that could impact his way of learning. And so that's when, children can qualify for these special education supports.
Does someone have to have a diagnosis by either a doctor, a mental health professional? Again, I guess to help clarify who is eligible, right? Is a diagnosis necessary? I guess the broader question is who is eligible?
Right. Well, that's a good point, because they have to, in order for them to receive our services, they have to have that diagnosis so we can intervene, but not necessarily. There in some cases that there's a suspicion, and so we can guide them and how to get that diagnosis and how to get medical information to be able to receive certain services from the different programs that we have. Gotcha.
Okay, so we've alluded to it, right? We talked about the eligibility, the population, and we keep on talking about services. So let's get to the crux of it, right? Let's get to the meat and potatoes. What is it? What is it that DRTX does? What can that do for Texans, and specifically here for our fellow El Pasoans? What can DRTX do for people who have a disability, right? That have that diagnosis, or like you said, might have a suspected disability.
Well, we have legal representation for cases related to disability rights, such as discrimination, abuse, and neglect. We also provide direct advocacy for individuals navigating systems like special education, employment, and public accommodations. And then we also provide training and education to empower individuals, families, and professionals to advocate for disability rights. And then we have the information and referral services to connect individuals to resources and organizations that can further assist them. We also have public policy advocacy to work on legislative initiatives and promote systemic change to better protect disability rights in Texas. So with the variety of these programs or these supports, we can guide our the people with disabilities in how to self-advocacy, or we can intervene and help them.
Okay, so just so that I'm aware, and maybe put it in a nice little picture for everybody, you guys go the entire spectrum, right? So DRTX intervenes at the highest level where there might be some policy changes, and by policy we mean laws, any mandates or things that are created by lawmakers, right, that could potentially be discriminating, or that could potentially leave out a certain population, right? So DRTX's goal is to change that to be more inclusive, to be more equitable to everybody, correct?
Correct.
And then I guess the next level down from that would be intervening legally, where if a person feels that their rights have been violated because of a disability or even a perceived disability, that DRTX could potentially intervene legally. In other words, would they represent that group, that person, or that group?
Correct. It could be that an individual or a group.
So you all have attorneys that would intervene for the patient or the person?
And the way that we work is because we have advocates, and the advocates are the ones who are assigned with the cases that are coming in. And so when we intervene, we start with an investigation, right? We have the authority to request records from the different entities that should be providing certain services, or that the person with a disability is expecting the services from. And so so when we take those cases is when we are able to know whether or not they have, their rights have been violated, and to prepare the case for an attorney. So sometimes, depending on what we're seeing in our communities, we could, in an ARD meeting, in a team meeting, is where we discussed, the issues that we're seeing, or situations that we're seeing that is impacting or affecting our communities, and that's when we sometimes can have clients and volunteering to go and and to the Capitol and talk about or speak up, about what's going on and have those changes. But we have a policy specialist in each of our departments or teams that help us to address those issues and ensure that they are not that they don't continue, but that there's changes for the better.
Gotcha. So it doesn't always end with a lawsuit, right? It's not that any case
Correct.
that comes in goes, oh, we're going to sue this group or that agency or this employer or this city, this whatever. You mentioned that there's advocating even the empowering for self-advocacy. So what are those, I guess, the underlayers, right, of that DRTX can take before pursuing a lawsuit against some an entity or a group or whatever, because of the sense that someone's rights were violated? What are maybe the steps below going to court?
I think that it all starts with our intake, right? Because during intake, the person provides us more information about the situation, but then so they're able to allocate them, to one of our under one of our teams, and then to see what exactly they need help with. So once it is discussed within the team, the attorneys that are assigned, they provide us with the clients that we have to that we want to take based on our priorities, because the agency has priorities like inclusion, transition. There are like several priorities that we have, accessibility. So depending on that, when the advocate is assigned with one of those cases, then the job of the advocate is to investigate, right? So we can communicate with the client to ensure that we got everything, that their concerns, what they want, and then once we have the access or the consent to access the records, then that's when we start investigating. We investigate. If we found any violations, that's when we call our attorneys and let them know. So we figure out or we plan what is it exactly that we're gonna do. It could be that we can still try to go to a meeting and negotiate and be able to fix it at that level, at the advocacy level, and not to do a complaint or use our attorneys, but because we're trying to use that money that is for services to be used in services.
Would that be maybe engaging in mediation with whoever that complaint is about, or?
It could be depending on the situation. We can mediate, we can do negotiations, and maybe due process or complaints. But yes.
And if my memory serves me right, there's times where even awareness is important, right? Where the person who the complaint has been levied upon, they might not realize that they violated someone's rights, right? And that
Correct.
There are times when maybe just a simple letter saying, hey, per law, you can't do this, or you can't say this, or this person is entitled to right? And sometimes maybe just that awareness can help, like you said, resolve the situation.
Right. Yes. Because sometimes, as you said, they might not be aware. It could be some person that is not trained, right? That is providing wrong information or misinformation to the client, and so when we bring this awareness or make the agency aware of it, they might say, no, that is not the way that we do things. So let's fix it. And so that's when, they try to fix it, and that's when, the collaboration starts.
Gotcha. Great. You mentioned that the RTX has multiple teams, right? So what are those teams, and maybe what are they geared to do? Is there by specialization? Is it by type, by region? How does that work?
Yes, we have these teams. One of them is accessibility, and this is to ensure that people with disabilities have the full access to private businesses and in government facilities, programs, and activities. So this work includes legal advocacy to remove architectural and technological barriers, or technology, barriers. And it can also include ensuring the necessary aids and services and that are provided for people with communication disabilities, such as sign language, interpreters for people with deafness, and Braille text for people with visual impairments. So, the services varies, but that's, specifically a department that assists with that. That's why when I said it starts with intake is because the intake specialist is the one who is able to know where to refer this client, right? Which department to refer it.
What team would be best suited to assist that individual?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay.
And so we also have the community living, and what they do is, they advocate for full inclusion of people with disabilities by promoting comprehensive, quality, community-based services and an alternative to institutionalization. So let's say that there's someone in a psychiatric hospital and is there against their willing, and they feel that they have, with a plan, collaborating with the doctor and all the people involved in their treatment plan, might be able to be out in the community. Then we have advocates that go out and reach out to those to those persons so they know that they have the right to be out.
Gotcha. So in social work, I feel that we call that the least restrictive environment.
That is
right. That if someone doesn't require 24-hour assistance, they don't require 20. They're able to live as independently as possible, but still with some assistance, right? That they shouldn't have someone do everything for them. That people have that right to self-determination, make their own decisions, reside where they want to reside. If they're able to do something, do it on their own, right? So that we're not stifling them. We're not taking their independence away.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Correct. And then we have the disaster resilience, and this works to help Texans with disabilities and prepare for and recover from disasters and emergencies. So because we have learned that during disasters, sometimes they don't know who to call or who to ask for, assistance, and we want to make sure that they know, they know that information, be able to, let somebody else to know their needs when this happens, and so they are assisted during that time. But we also prepare them by providing them training. We in our website have a lot of videos that assist them to see what they need to be prepared for that situation.
Excellent.
For an emergency. And then under the education, our education team works to improve educational opportunities for students with disabilities in grades K to 12 by ensuring they receive instruction in classrooms alongside students without disabilities, as you were mentioning, the least restrictive environment, right? We want for them to, become independent. Sometimes, and we hear this a lot from parents that their children will learn better with a one-on-one. But sometimes, I mean, not that is not appropriate, but sometimes, you know, that would make the child more dependent on that person. So our job is to provide them education about, you know, all the supports that we can have in their individualized educational plans to make sure that they are prepared for, you know, the adult life or, you know, after school. And we also assist them ensuring that we provide information so they can have access. It could be with assistive technology that are not disciplined inappropriately, like, you know, being restrained. It could be physically or in different ways, in a way that are, you know, discriminating against their disability, them because of their disability, or secluded because of the disability. As you know, you mentioned, you know, when we were talking, how, you know, in cases in some schools, sometimes, you know, they have these segregated classrooms where they, you know, put students there because they're being punished due to a discipline issue or because of their disability. They don't understand sometimes, you know, especially when it's an emotional disability, sometimes we don't have the education to understand how to help, you know, the person. And we also advocate so they can obtain the transition services that they need to prepare them for life after school. And so that's under the education. And we also have another department, which is the employment and vocational rehabilitation. And our job is to ensure that employers do not discriminate because of a person's disability, and we help people getting services from the state vocational rehabilitation program through our client assistance program, assisting people with Social Security Administration's Ticket to Work program, so they don't lose their benefits because they, you know, if they want to go work, you know, those benefits might be reduced.
Yeah, and so it sounds like you said, right, that at the intake, that's the important part where people should really, if this is something that they feel that they, as an individual, a family member, someone they know, they should try and provide as much detail as possible to help you all, you know, direct them to the appropriate team.
That is correct.
Okay, and so, you know, Texas is a very large state, right? And so my understanding is that there's regional offices, right? So the Dallas, San Antonio, Houston, El Paso. So we have our own office here in El Paso dedicated to serve the people of El Paso. We know that in a minority majority city, 80% Hispanic, that sometimes maybe asking for help is not the easiest thing to do for our population, right? So what would you tell people as in regards to accessing or even just reaching out to DRTX for the people like, oh no, I what are they going to do for me? Or no, I can't go and ask for help. I can't go in and, you know, do the intake. What if? What would you tell our viewers and beyond?
Yeah, well, you know, there's a lot of information now that help us to, you know, reach out to the services that we need, and sometimes we are afraid, you know, to request services maybe because of the legal status, you know, like different language barriers. But what we do is we try to accommodate. So we provide our, you know, all our information is in English, Spanish, and I believe that we have a Vietnamese language also. So if you are hesitant, you know, sometimes, you know, talking to your community leader there, or, you know, someone in the community, so that person can you know, refer you to the right person. I have a lot of I receive a lot of phone calls from people that I know in the community referring people, and so sometimes if it takes them time to talk to someone in the agency, talking to someone from your community helps you to feel like better, and so I can also provide more information about how to start, or sometimes we don't need to refer the person to the agency if they haven't started with getting the medical information to know how to request these different services. So by talking to someone, they help you to refer you. But one of the things that I wanted to talk on the intake process, that's centralized. So if you want to talk to someone from the intake, they're not that are local. They're not here. They're centralized, as you mentioned. We have different locations throughout the state. So we have our intake system in Austin, and so they would take all your information, put it in the system, and so from there is when attorneys and advocates, when they meet together once a week, they discuss all the services that are the cases that are coming in, and that's when they discuss if that's something that meets our priorities and that we wanted to address.
Gotcha. Excellent. Yeah, I think that's always, you bring up a great point, that maybe this information isn't necessarily always needed just by the people that need the services, but just anybody, right? Because you might be having a conversation with someone and you're like, hey, I heard about this place that could help you. And sometimes that helps, that communication, it helps ease the blow some, right? That, oh no, what do they know about me? But no, if it comes from someone so just listen up, this goes for everybody, right? That even if it's you just know about it, right? And your website's a great resource for everybody, as in regards to knowing about each of the individual teams, knowing what the priorities are, looking at what the intake looks like. You all have a great video library that talks not only about the services, but even there's some that talk about not specific cases, but gives examples of what would fall under each of the different teams, right? So again, we could probably be here all day talking about what does the institutional and the accessibility and education teams, what exactly do they do, and examples of cases and things, but all that can be accessed through your website. Right.
And we also collaborate with different agencies, that are assisting, families with that have a family member with a disability. So they usually bring us to talk about, special education process, what entails and everything about special ed. But we also offer, and in the past we used to collaborate with schools because they have a program there with social workers that could bring, different agencies from local here in El Paso, and so they can talk about the different resources that they have. And so that's when, sometimes we have the opportunity to talk one-on-one with people. We also attend 2 conferences. There's one coming up, and we're going to, talk about behavior supports. And Excellent. So that's when we had the opportunity to talk one-on-one with people about, the resources.
Excellent. Well, Isabel, again, thank you very much for taking time out of your busy day, from helping people, from advocating for people. And again, everybody, the website for Disability Rights Texas will be up here shortly, and please feel free to peruse through there, as well as if you'd like to watch any other episodes and any of the other shows brought to you by EPCC TV, please don't hesitate to go to the EPCC TV YouTube channel and access and view at your leisure. Again, remember, this is great information to have just as us as individuals, and sometimes these are not easy conversations to have with people, right? About accessing services like that of DRTX, disabilities, things of that nature. At the end of the day, all we ask is just keep it social.